Yo, 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 no maniacs. Welcome to Nomad Live, all Bears all the time, in conjunction with Sports Zone Chicago with my boy Sean Sierra co-hosting this thing with me. Hey Sean, man, it was a good game last night. And again, welcome to the show, guys. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Do all that good stuff for us. And if you catch it on replay or what have you on audio pod, make sure you go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button for us, man. We're almost at 1,000. We asked and you gave it to us, you guys. So help us push it over the top and get us to 1,000 and beyond. And we're gonna be so grateful for that. But let's just go right on in, Sean. Let's talk about before we get into free agency and what might Ryan Poles do with some of the money he has, $80 million in cap space and a lot of opportunities before he goes into the draft. But let's talk about that game last night, man. I thought I thought it was a great game to me. You know, I'm a defensive minded guy, so I think defense first. And you know, if you're not that kind of person and you don't really respect all aspect of the game, I could see how that game would have been boring to you. And it was just a lot going on. And I'll just start this with this, Sean. I think one of the overlooked things that happened last night is Trent McDuffie taking away Deebo Samuels. Just took him straight off the grid last night for the most part. And he was pretty much a non-factor. But I think that's the unsung hero of the game last night was number 22, Trent McDuffie for the Chiefs. I love, Sean, I mean, when I tell you I love the Washington Huskies DBs. They are so well coached and so well put together. Technically, I mean, it's hard to miss we got one in Kyler Gordon, but there's also a free safety in the draft that, you know, I hit you up to, man, that Dominic Hampton.
Yeah.
Hurry up and make us forget about Eddie Jackson. We get a hold of that kid. But I digress. It was just a good game because the defense and the major players, especially for Kansas City, really showed up when it was time for them to show up and really got them over the hump. So what did you think about the game last night?
Well, I don't know. I will give him credit, but we do know that that Deebo was hurt. Like you saw that there was, you know, a couple of times he'd gone out, he'd make a play, but then so I don't know how 100% he was, but again, by the same token, he did do a great job of covering him. I think it was a combination of both. I don't think he just locked him down just on the day alone. I just think there are other factors involved, and that's part of the game. Unfortunately, that is part of the game, whether you like it or not, whether you admit it or not, or whether you want to call it an excuse or not. I just think it's part of the game, and unfortunately, I think it was the wrong time for him to get injured. Not that there's a right time to get injured, but I think McDuffie is a great DB. And he had a much easier time with Deebo being, sidelined, not 100%. So, again, it happens. All right, it happens. So, round one, McDuffie.
Hey, I can tell you this, being a DB, seeing what was going on, they did good film work on the route concepts, is what I saw out there. I mean, some really good film work. And you saw DBs, it wasn't only Trent McDuffie, but the other guy over there, I forget his name all the time. I mean, they were running the routes for the 49ers, man. They got free and got loose in some zone coverage, but when they tacked up and went man-to-man, McDuffie was straight out. He was a straight-out stud, and he was running the routes for Deebo, because Deebo's route tree is pretty limited, man, because they want him in the 1 yard, 0 to 15 yards and in territory. So it's only so many routes you can do in that area. And so if you kind of sit down on them, you kind of get physical with them at the line of scrimmage, you're going to, one, disrupt the timing. Two, you're going to, right away when the quarterback gets the ball and if that's his first progression, he's going to go to the second one because you got physical contact right there at front. And so, Deebo was hurt, but I think the bigger picture of it is those guys knew what the route concepts were.
I was just about to say that Nomad Spags was at it again, bro. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't. Yeah, you give the credit to the players, but you got. Let's go right to that. Where the hell did they get it from? That's Spags, man. That defensive coordinator is a big game defensive coordinator. You've seen it. He's got a history of it. All right, when he was with the with the Giants, back against the Pats, those 2 Super Bowls. This guy's big time. He is thorough, okay, and he makes sure that his players are well informed. He makes sure his players understand what's going on. He leaves no stone unturned. So my hat goes off to Spagnuolo again. He had those boys prepared, man. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He had them prepared, and you know what? And that's you and I both know from playing at a high level that preparation is everything. You can be the most athletic and the most talented team, but if you're not prepared and you don't respect your opponent, there's a great chance that you can come out of that game with the L. And they were not overlooking this team. I mean, I hope not. You're in the Super Bowl. But they were just, again, well prepared. And it's tough to beat a team that's good, talented, respectful of the other team's talent, and well prepared. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. You get teams like that, it's going to be a tough night. And only thing they couldn't do was stop the run. And God bless it. I don't know why San Fran stopped going with the run for a while. I think they stopped. Someone put in there.
James Ford. Just I was going to bring it up soon.
Yeah, I don't know why they stopped early, like in the third quarter. Like, man, this is where this is where CMC and that other running back, I can't think his name, just eluded me. Man, they're like, all right, you got one series. If you need a blow, let me know, and we're going. And man, I'll tell you what. If you said that to the offensive lineman, like we're running the ball 10 times, man, do you know how excited? Do you know how excited offensive linemen would be?
Right. And how relieved defensive linemen are. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's man. I'll tell you. Here's another little component to the game. I mentioned this last night on Nomad at night. Early in the game, like that first quarter and a half, the defensive line for the Chiefs was really being taken and kind of washed down the line of scrimmage on those zone run concepts. And they were kind of following the flow and allowing themselves to be kind of pushed down the line, which is exactly what San Fran wanted, and so that McCaffrey could find the cutback lane. And they're not also, when you do that, they're also not in position to really get after the quarterback at the right angle. So what they did, they straightened up their penetration concepts, getting upfield and getting vertical. And so before you knew it, someone
going laterally and trying to get in,
they went vertical and got right up the field and was in Purdy's face and getting him very, very uncomfortable. And so I think that was a small component, but it was a huge component. If you really knew what to look for, that was huge. Them getting vertical and just getting upfield and getting that dude's face really made him uncomfortable and changed everything about the game.
Yeah, it was. And again, that goes to big game coaching. And no disrespect to Steve Wilkes,
called a good game. Wilkes called a pretty good game.
He called a great game. I should have said, but because that actually is not a hint regarding him. That's called Shanahan. Shanahan's starting to get a reputation as a big game underperformer. He really has to change that. He's really got to change it. He's good in regular season, good up until that, but man, he's got to do a much better job. For his sake, he can get back there and win one, because that's talking about changes on the fly. All right, you talk about what do we need to do? That's everybody being on the same page. That's allowing all voices to be heard, and that's trusting the voices that you have, that you're listening to, and that's what Spags did. Because he's going to get all the glory, and he's going to get all the criticism. But he'll tell you, man, I got my eyes in the sky. I got other people telling me, hey, coach, do this, coach, do this, coach, do this, coach, do this. Try this. Here's what I see. Here's what I see. And he trusts them. He trusts them. So it's the ability to make in-game adjustments at that level, because this ain't the NBA, bro. This is not Major League Baseball where it's best out of 7. It's one game. And the best team doesn't always win. Okay? But they made sure that they made adjustments. And it seemed like they just stayed close. In San Francisco, their biggest problem was not putting them away. Too many field goals. You cannot give a dude like Patrick, what do they call him, hat trick now, because he's going for a 3-peat next year. You cannot give him field goals to overcome, because he will overcome it, as you saw. You cannot get extra points blocked late in the game, because it's a lot easier hurdle for him to get. And San Fran just shot themselves in the foot with a lot of things. All right, with the fumble early with Christian McCaffrey. All right, he's getting tackled. He got one hand on the ball, and I know a lot of us done it. I've done it a lot where I'm being tackled. I still have the ball in one hand as opposed to covering up. Well, it came back to bite you. The punt where it hits the foot of the blocker. All right, and he has to go try and get the returner has to try and go and get it. He doesn't, and they score right after that. I mean, there was just a couple, and then the block extra point. Man, special teams was a big problem for the Niners yesterday, and it was one of the biggest factors that cost them the game.
Man, I know this, man. There was a bunch of little things that happen. He who controls the amount of turnovers wins that battle, and can pretty much you can win the turnover battle and manage the clock effectively. I think you have a good chance to win the game. If you can play some defense, you can win the game. But here's something I mentioned last night. I didn't get really any agreement from the guys on the show last night, but I stand by this, man, because I went to and this didn't sway my opinion at all, but I went to some 49ers podcast late last night after we got out of the green room, and I was looking at I think because I'm gonna tell you like this, Sean. It is hard to win an NFL game. Number one, you know that. It is very hard to win an NFL game. Number one. Number two, it is very, very hard to stay healthy for a complete season and have your key pieces there for a big game like this. Number three, I don't know that they will be able to maintain some of those key guys that got them there and were able to maintain them. They'll never be as healthy as they were. They were pretty much all across the board healthy. They'll never be that healthy again. They'll never have all those pieces again. Do they still have some draft capital to use? Yes. All those players got to get developed whenever they get them. But to me, this is my opinion. I've seen enough NFL cycles and good teams that turn into great teams have a window to win a championship. And I think that window for them has been open approximately 5 years. And I think the window after yesterday, I think the window just really started closing last night. I don't think they'll ever get to that level again, not with this team currently constructed.
So what do you think they're going to do? Do you think part of it was Purdy's fault? Do you think it was the defense?
I'll give you this, Sean. I think had Purdy been somewhat mobile and was able to, let's just say he was able to add 50, 60 yards on the ground by himself, getting out of trouble and boom, extending some drives or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think without that aspect, I think that really hurt them. That once he was pretty much covered up back there, and the pursuit was on him, man. He what could you do with Brock Purdy? Another dynamic would have added something to that game. I think that would have changed had he been able to add some yardage to that offense.
I think I agree with you. I think that they should have implemented some runs, some bootlegs, some nakeds. All right, and especially at the end of the game, because it was so funny. I'm sitting there watching the game at my buddy's bar, and it was fourth down. It was their 4th and 1, and I'm like, Mahomes. I'm like, trust me, they're gonna fake it. I said, Mahomes. I said they're gonna watch them run a naked boot or watch them just fake it and watch Mahomes go out. I said, just naked. I said he's gonna go. He's going to do whatever he has to get that first down. And sure enough, what's his name? Bosa crashed down hard, crashed down on a running back, and at that point he could have just skipped for the first down, got 3 yards because they only needed 1. And he could just skip for that first down. And I'm like, man, if Bosa had just said, you know what, let me take him, and this is coaching. Okay? This is coaching. Here's where you have to say, okay, Patrick Mahomes is a competitor of all competitors. He's going to want that ball in his hands. And we know he can run. Right? He's run before. All right? In all 7 years that he's been here, he's run. Not Michael Vick, not Lamar Jackson, not Justin Fields type. But he's run, and he's been effective at it. Now's a good time because he hasn't run to this point. Be careful. Watch, always go attack him. Remember, sometimes Justin will fake the ball, will play fake and turn around. There's a DN right in his face.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Bosa needed to do. Say, hey, listen, on this, I'll let Pacheco get the first down. All right, I'll let him get the first down, but I'm damn sure not letting Mahomes get it. And because if he stop it, that's game, set, match. San Francisco 49ers are the world champs, but they're not. So this is coaching. This is I don't even know. And I can't read. What does my shirt say? Oh, but that's coaching. Be leery when this guy hasn't run all game. He's the best quarterback on the planet. He's going to want to say, "Hey, let me give it to fake it here. Let me keep it myself." It's always that point. So San Francisco had their chances. They had their chances despite their miscues. They definitely had their chances, and I agree with you. The question is, how do you think Purdy did? How do you think they say, "Hey, let's try and see if we can upgrade from Purdy"? Again, it wasn't. I don't think it was his fault per se.
No, he managed the game well,
But
man. He managed the game well, but could he add an extra? Could they find a guy that can add an extra dynamic, which is what Patrick Mahomes ended up being in his physical ability, change the outcome of that game, man. It really it was that. Patrick's ability to be able to extend some drives and get first downs when they need it on his own. Yeah, I mean, if you Kyle Shanahan and you being really really objective about what you saw there, you could see pretty easily that had he had the ability to really get out and make some hay with some of those plays that kind of broke down on him and got covered up, we might be talking about a different story right now. So
yeah,
that's up to Kyle Shanahan. Does he want to continue with a pocket passer only and think that he can continue? I mean, great defense, great players you got on offense, great pieces, but that extra dynamic that a quarterback with mobility gives you, man, you can't overstate that, man. I mean, that was glaring last night. I mean, if Brock Purdy were able to scat out for 15, 20 yards here and there, man, that would have been game changing for them. I believe that 100%.
yeah. And then Yada talked about that of course they saw it. The people in the booth, saying, "Hey, DN's crashing hard. Joey Bosa's crashing hard. He's crashing hard. You should have no problem. All right, you should have no problem getting 1 yard. It's 4th and 1. You should have no problem." You know what I mean? So, yeah. Again, man, coaching. You have to look at tendencies, and if you look at the touchdown that Kansas City had, they've run that touchdown. They've run that play before. Guy comes in motion, looks like he's going across. And as soon as he gets to tight end, he snaps the ball. He stops. He spins. As a DB, you're thinking he's gone through because now you're not looking at your guy. You're looking at the play and in the backfield or the backfield, and he was wide open yet again for another touchdown. So that play has been run multiple times by Kansas City for a touchdown. So why that wasn't expected? Coaching.
All right. I mean, great game overall, man.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, bro. Heck yeah.
Great game overall. It was just I enjoyed every minute of it because I was watching, little dynamics of the game play out, the little one-on-one matchups. I'll tell you another thing, man, who played a really good game was the free safety Mike Edwards, who will be in free agency pretty soon here if they don't re-sign him some kind of way. So just a little teaser as we head into the conversation about how Ryan Poles will spend that money, $80 million in cap. Where will he spend it? And my thoughts about that are most of the people here are regulars to the show, and they kind of have an idea of what I think, but I will reiterate it for all people that may be new to it and watching or listening to it on an audio stream or something like that. So what I think about free agency and where to spend the money at, you have we've done this scenario many a times on the show, mock drafts, went into franchise mode and did it that way and showed, where we might objectively spend some money in free agency. So most of the time, I'm not going to even say most of the time, every time we've done that mock scenario, I haven't been the GM yet, but, I've supported whatever anybody else was doing. But to me, and you can tell me if you agree with this logic or not, most of the people they went and got a high-end defensive end. They went and got a center. They went and got a safety. And all three of those positions, minus the center, they paid big money for. See, I don't think Ryan Poles will spend big money on a center this offseason. Why? It's because we do so well in developing guys. We showed nothing else, Sean. We've proven that these coaches can develop DBs. And so I don't see them spending large amounts of money like $20 million on an Antoine Winfield when they can get a mid-tier guy for probably half the money or less for the same amount of production. And so to me, I think if you don't sign that free agent, the high market free agent free safety, I think that leaves more and more room to do some other signings, and maybe you spend more money on a defensive end. Maybe you spend more money on a DT. Maybe you can lure what's his name, the guys on the front of the thumbnail, Chris, whatever his last name, and you can get him in free agency, maybe. But that's what we're here to talk about. Where do you think are
Chris
optimal?
Jones?
Chris Jones, my bad. What do you think are optimal positions to spend good money in free agency, and how much would you spend on some of those positions? You're on mute, Sean.
The end.
Okay.
And let's not forget, when you talk about free agency, let's not forget a contract that he gets as well, a la DJ Moore. Let's not forget that. All right, because if we're talking, say they trade with the Commanders, you know, there's a chance that you go get that you in the deal you include, you know, Daron Payne or Jonathan Allen. So you really have to, you know, that's technically that's not free agency. We're not signing them, but we're acquiring their contract. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the things that Ryan Poles is going to do. He already showed he wanted to do it last year. Everybody's excited over Caleb, so they make that trade. There's going to be a player involved. But if you strictly sticking to free agency, I think at the end, I think my biggest, I still wanted Danielle Hunter. I think you get him on a nice 3-year deal, front loaded for 2 years, for the majority of it for 2 years. At that point, he'll be 31. He'll be 30 this year, 31 next year. Okay. I think that's where they spend it. I think they spend a little bit of money. I don't think they break the bank on a center. I think they're going to go draft a center. There's 3 really, really good centers in the draft this year. You got the kid from West Virginia. You have Van Pran from Georgia, and you have J.P. Jackson Power Johnson from Oregon. So you got 3 good centers that you could choose from. So I think getting one of those guys, I think you just get a in Spanish it's called a pasatiempo, just someone to hold it for the years out until they're ready to start, you know, calling protection and slide protection in certain ways in the NFL, because obviously they're able to do it in college, but in the NFL is another story. So I think that's.
Let me read this. Let me read a question. Keith Harris is asking, Sean and Nomad, what are your thoughts on the Shanahan system, the Reed system? ? Everyone hype up that tree, and they only have 1 or 2 championships.
Who only has 1 or 2 championships?
Keith? Talking about the Shanahan system and how many championships it has, and the Andy Reid system, which is both of them are the same thing, is just different versions of it. Well, go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, because Shanahan's got 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, he's got 3.
That's just for starters. I'm talking to father, Mike Shanahan.
Mike's got 3.
So that tree's got 3. I like the motion. I like it's really, and I think that's why they wanted Trey Lance, because Trey Lance was a guy who can run, not known as a running quarterback, but a guy who can run. I think if you would have had a mobile quarterback, like you said, Nomad, I think it's been a little different. It could have been a different outcome, because that's something that you have to worry about. Me personally, I like the motions. I like misdirection. Also by the same token, I like the fact that lining up in a big formation and coming and smacking you in the mouth as well, which Shanahan will do is also. But it always seems, for some reason, that Andy Reid says Andy always has someone open. Always has someone open and in key slots. And that's what I don't get. Like, how does he key times? Like, all right, so they might be held down first, second, third quarter, 3.5 quarters, but then the last 7.5 minutes, all of a sudden like people are breaking open. I don't understand it. So a lot of it has to do with Andy Reid himself, because I'm sure there are calls where he's like, hey, instead of let's run this play, but instead of you doing this route, I want you to do this. I'm sure there's a lot of ad-libbing going on, and so I don't know, man. They're both good. I personally like the Shanahan. If I had to pick, gun to my head, give me the Shanahan system because of the versatility that it displays. And I'm not saying that Reeves doesn't display versatility, because it does. But I just like the multiple sets, the multiple formations, and all that gives a defense a hell of a lot to prepare for every week. When you can come out in 7, 8 different formations, run the same play out of that, run different plays out of that. It's a lot of preparation for the defense. And listen, the more that you prepare for, the more that you have to prepare for, the easier it is for you to forget something or to overlook something come game time, because all the information that you have in your head.
So here's my thoughts on it. And just to be real quick about it, everybody runs their own version of that concept. And it's pretty. I played in 4-3 defense, and we played with a West Coast offense, and I know how it's very complicated until you understand the basic fundamentals of it. Now, and the concept that everybody seems to like right now is the one that Frisco does, and it's a lot of window dressing on it. It's a bunch of window dressing and drag routes, jet sweeps, and all that kind of stuff. And it's very multiple, it's very dynamic, and you have to be very disciplined to play against it. And it's all it is setting up drag routes to be going across the defense and finding holes in zones and some kind of vertical route to go in between it. So you may have 2 receivers cutting across, doing drags across the middle at different levels, layered. And then you might have a tight end to cut right in the middle of that and go off on a vertical deep pass and make the safety linebacker in the middle of the field be in conflict on which one to cover. You got to jump something. And that safety needs to stay disciplined. And if he doesn't, boom, there goes a wide. But it comes off in so many different ways. That's just a really basic fundamental way of describing it. I love it. I mean, because it keeps the defense on its toes. And if you got the right pieces in place, damn it, it's successful. But you got to have the right pieces in place and somebody that really knows what they're doing, 1. 2, he needs to be very, very creative in his mind on how to use the pieces that we have. I see all of that in Shane Walsh. It's about the pieces and how creative can you be. So that answers your questions. I'm confident in the system and it being able to work and get us to where we need to go and win it. It's just about putting the pieces together, and that's all we need are pieces. So with that being said, I want to bring it to this, man. How do you feel about Justin Madubuike, which I don't think I'm bringing this up because somebody mentioned it in the chat. Justin Madubuike will be a free agent. He's a 3 tech for the Ravens. Stud football player who I don't think has any chance of ever hitting free agency. I think they'll get him signed up. But in the event that he does hit the market and they give him a chance to go out there and see what he can get, and Poles goes after him, how do you feel about that with the young Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens there?
Well, first of all, anytime you get to add, for me, I guess it would be the financials. All right, because everything is gearing toward, for me, is gearing toward paying Justin Fields, and you have to budget. All right, because you can pick up his 5th-year option, so you pay him this year. But you know what he's got to pay this year. You know what you got to pay next year. Okay, and can you do that? I would love that. To me that would be, let me just take the money out of it. Yeah, I think that would be a phenomenal signing. Reason being, I just think that it will bring the best out in Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens. All right, the more talent you bring around, okay, the more you're forced to raise your game. Okay, the more you learn from talented people. Okay, the more you do, and when there's an influx of talent will rise. People will rise, and you will definitely separate the men from the boys. It happens in every aspect, every walk of life, not just sports, in business, in advertising, you name it. In everything, The cream, the old saying, the cream will rise to the top. Competition, the pecking order will be set. Some guys rise to the occasion when they're challenged. Other people don't. I think that they have selected guys in Pickens with Zach with 2 C's and Dexter. I think these guys are dogs. I think these guys will definitely rise to the challenge. And you get him, was he 26 years old? And now you got 22-year-old, 23-year-olds with this guy, and watching how he plays. I think it really, really helps our rotation. It really increases the depth, because I think Javon Dexter is about to have a just a breakout year this year. Yeah, I think that would be really, 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 that would be a good thing for us, because you're still going to get slapped. Snaps. You're still going to get you don't now. Defensive linemen don't play the whole game. All right, you're in waves. You rotate. All right, so yeah, I think it'd be a great thing, man.
Hey, Yataza. I can't really spell your name. I mean, pronounce it. I'm gonna call you ES for the just call
That's
you
just Yada. That's Yada.
Yada.
Yada. So Yada, I think only thing you're halfway right. They did pay Roquan, but they have not paid Patrick Queen yet. They have not paid Patrick Queen, and I think Patrick Queen was really upset about that going into the season and might have asked for a trade. So he may hit the free agent market. And so I believe them not signing him probably left the window open for them to be able to sign Justin Madubuike. And so if they give Patrick Queen big money, no, they will not be able to sign Madubuike. I don't think so.
Baltimore Ravens are currently negative 827,000 and some change against the cap. So
Another cap?
Yeah, they're gonna have to clear
Over
out.
the cap, I should say.
Yeah, over the cap. So they're gonna have to clear out a ton of money to do anything.
Yeah, I just think
Which can be done, and they'll do it every year. Teams have to do that.
they don't let stud players go very often, man. They find ways to keep them on the team. I just think that dude, I think they'd be crazy, to be quite honest with you, to let a stud like that get out of the door without giving him a fair offer, or probably better than fair offer, to keep him on the team. I think he's that much of a stud player. I feel a couple different ways about adding a 3 tech during the draft, because I think Chris Jones is Ryan Poles is probably integral in bringing him there and having him drafted from I think he's from Mississippi State, and so Poles was in that front office when they got him, and so he has product knowledge of him. Will he go after that guy, knowing that he pretty much drafted Javon Dexter to be him in the next couple of years? Will he bring Chris Jones along? If for nothing else, is to help, like you said, help raise Javon Dexter's game, help raise Zach Pickens' game, and kind of help them get them along the way. He knows that if he signed him, it was only going to be for a year or two anyway, and that would be it. You know what I mean? Just to get.
How old is Chris, man? How old is Chris Jones?
It's about 31.
Yes, I don't see. That's why I don't see that signing, bro.
I can see the signing, but not for long.
I don't see that signing at all. It's just, I think the oldest was 27 that he's a free agent. So I just don't, and that's 4 years. That's a long time. That's a lot of production between 27 and 32. And so I just don't. I think the age them, and we've been very. He's been very adamant about sticking to his parameters when negotiating, and I mean I think Chris Jones would be a good be a nice fit, but I just don't see it. Yeah, I think he's pretty good. Of course, I'm being facetious for those of you who can't tell. So I got a message that Chris Jones is 29. Let me see. Anyway,
it might be right. He is about 29. That's right.
I just think he's still. I think it might be a little. And maybe he bends the rules a little bit. All right, he can bend his own rules. You know what I mean? So he'll be 30 this year. He's 29, born July 3rd. So he'll be 30. Maybe for one of his former players, Ryan Poles kind of bends a little bit, but I usually don't see him, going past 27. That's 3 years.
All I know is Anytime you can get a dominant piece like that, like I've seen that guy do so many incredible things when the game was on the line, and last night was no different. I mean, he dominated when he needed to dominate.
He
And
did.
when if there's an opportunity, because I don't think they're going to sign that big money free safety. I think they got money to spend here. Will they spend it on a 3 tech? I don't know. Will the Chiefs actually let him get out of there without giving him another year or two and keep going and go on another run or two? I don't know. I think that the chances are more than likely the Chiefs will offer him a nice contract again and run it back. But if he hits the market, I think it'd be foolish for Ryan Poles not to really strongly consider getting a guy of that caliber and just for a year or two to help bring these other two guys along. And when he's gone, boom, they're ready to go. But that's one position I think they could spend money is at 3 tech, and those are the two guys. Christian Wilkins would be another one, from Miami, who they might actually consider spending some money on. He's another name, but we'll go from there to defensive end because we have this. I don't know if you want to call it heated, but I think the argument, we'll just say the conversation kind of goes back and forth because I see two ways of going about defensive end and free agents. I don't think there's a ready right now defensive end in the NCAA draft.
No.
I think also that the free agency pool of defensive ends is stronger than I've seen it in quite some time. With some of the higher end defensive ends that are going to hit the market, and some of the mid-tier guys that get similar or the same kind of production are there too. So I'm talking about 20 million guys, 10 to 15 million dollar guys that right there above and below each other. I think that market is where if you're going to spend some money, I think that's the market you target first because it's just hard to come by really good upper tier defensive ends in this league. It's hard to find them in the draft, and I think once you get an opportunity to get one and put him on the other side of someone like Montez Sweat, I think you change the game. And another part I was talking about too last night, Sean, is I was asking the guys to kind of reflect back to when Lovey was here and before Julius Peppers got here. They had a hard time getting to the quarterback. They had a really hard time getting to the quarterback. All of a sudden, enter Julius Peppers, boom, they're after people. And so in order to play a 4-3 defensive scheme, those edge rushers have to be able to provide pressure, or it doesn't work. The DBs have to cover too long, the linebackers have to cover too long, and it creates holes and just all kinds of problems out there. But if the edges can get home, and you got an opportunity to get two edges that can get home, I'm thinking more like Daniil Hunter, to be quite frank with you, and go and get one of the guys Eric Washington has been pretty much raising up down there in Buffalo, AJ Epinesa. And so you can probably pay Hunter in the neighborhood of $15 to $18 million. You might have to go to 20, but I don't know. But you can get him in that neighborhood, and you can bring AJ Epinesa in for probably a 2-year, 3-year deal worth about 8 to 12 million. And so that's doable, So that's just where my mind is. I think he might go that route more than I think anything else.
I think he may end up going too. I could see that. But I could also, one thing I also see, I could see him going one defensive end, drafting one defensive end, then two. So now you have a veteran with the youngster, because you can get a decent one. And again, we don't know how they're going to develop. If we're going off of the development of Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens, I saw some nice development from those guys. But they're interior, so we're talking about literally like defensive ends, interior, and so we'll see. We haven't had so now we haven't had a defensive end that we're looking to develop, and we got Dominique, but still he's okay, but he didn't get a lot of options, not a run. He didn't get, and he was a project. He is a project. So I say that it's free agent DN, sign a free agent defensive end, and I also say draft one and then develop them. Because again, you still got DeMarcus Walker. You got guys in rotation that you can use at DN. You still got guys.
All right. So before we go any further, man, I'd like to take a quick pause to give you guys a station identification.
best Chicago Bears content anywhere. Catch Nomad live pregame 1 hour prior to kickoff and Nomad at night postgame, and every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central on all the most popular streaming platforms, and only on the Nomad Network.
Whatever.
Hey, you guys, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe. Hit your notification bell, man. Do that for me and share the content. If you would please do that for us, that would be nice for us. But Sean, I wanted to really quickly, I wanted to mention something. Eric Washington, a new defensive coordinator, and how the scheme was set up. In Sean, you off the air right now?
Oh, sorry, boss.
Was you able to hear anything I said?
No, I didn't. I just heard Eric Washington.
Okay, so Eric Washington being the new defensive coordinator, and I'm gonna take, for anybody that hasn't really done any kind of homework on Buffalo and the defense and how it was set up. First thing, I got a couple of things I want to mention to you. Number one, there's two ways to think about, what kind of defensive end do we want here? Now, with Flus being the defensive coordinator before Eric Washington got here, I tell you for sure they would go after another big, long defensive end on the other side, because that's the type guys that he wants. Big, long, fast, get around the corner really well with a whole bunch of length. And that spells Daniil Hunter for sure. And Brian Burns even, at that. And so with that being said, I'll just tell you real quickly how the defense in Buffalo was set up. Buffalo was set up so that I think Von Miller, he was the key pass rusher on the left side of the ball. On the right side. And they had basically guys that were rotating on the other side of the ball, whether it was Greg Rousseau or it was AJ Epinesa or whether it was Leonard Floyd. So they had like three guys mainly in rotation, and Leonard Floyd would be the guy that would kind of rotate to both sides. If Von Miller wasn't available, he'd go to that side and go back and forth. But they had two main guys or three main guys that would pretty much rotate on the other side of Von Miller. And so that's kind of like what Lovey had set up. He didn't have two like big money defensive ends. He had one and rotational pieces on the other side. Now, that way of thinking is one way to look at free agency. That's one way to look at the draft we have coming up and who we might sign. So it would not surprise me if they did not spend big money in free agency on the edge on one player. It would absolutely not surprise me if they went and got two guys that are real familiar with Eric Washington and what he does. And those two guys probably would be Leonard Floyd and AJ Epinesa.
Yeah. And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to get a guy that the defensive line coach / defensive coordinator, even though he's probably not going to be making the calls, he's still familiar with him. He still knows what he can do. So, and you see that all the time. Hell, it happened here when we brought Yannick Ngakoue. Why? Because he played for Flus. It didn't work out as well as we would have wanted. Okay, but he still brought a guy in who was comfortable and familiar with his system. So that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying two defensive ends?
Get two for one.
Okay. I'm all with it. I'm all with it because I still, to me, it puts a lot of pressure or gives the defensive coordinator a lot more toys to play with. You can switch up packages, you can switch up fronts, you can have a heavy package, you could have a NASCAR package, you could have a combo package, you can have a regular package. I just think that the amount of different types of rushers, is huge. All right, because if you start switching guys around and just for spits and giggles, one guy may be able to handle a big, strong guy, but he has issue with the quicker guys. So now you're coming around on stunts, you're doing all these things. You're putting these guys in conflict. The more diverse types of players you have, the more difficult it is for offensive linemen.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like there was a source that tweeted out. I can't remember who it was. Might have been Schefter, might have been Rappaport or somebody. One of those two main guys reported out that the sources are saying that the Bears are very high on Daniil Hunter. You know, and they probably I know that he was in conversations last year around the trade deadline time, and I know the Bears were in that conversation. They were one of the teams that was being mentioned as might be in looking for services, and that never did work out. We ended up with Montez. We didn't get Montez Sweat, but last year, you know, that was a conversation too. And so I just think, man, it's a strong possibility that one of those two scenarios plays out. You get Daniil Hunter and you get the mid-tier guy at the same time. Or you just don't reach for the big money guy and get two mid-tier guys. I could see both scenarios really, really working out, man. But you know, I can go on all day talking about this, Sean. I'm passionate about it. I'm constantly doing the homework. I don't sleep because I'm constantly looking at stuff, trying to see what kind of scenarios play out in free agency, man. But there's more positions to talk about that we can get to later on, man. But in for the sake of time, because we do have to do a mock show tonight, we want you guys to show up for that. I'm going to interview somebody tonight. He might be in the chat room right now. He might not be, but I'm going to have an interview with him right after the show to see if he wants to do a mock show tonight for you guys on Mock Draft Monday on Nomad at Night. But Sean, before we get out of here, man, you want to wrap it up with any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I'm looking forward to see what Poles does on this side of the ball. Not that we need a lot, because I'm really anxious to see what he does on the offensive side of the ball. And I think he's going to address a lot of that offensive side in the draft. Get a couple free agents just for stopgaps, but I'm really anxious to see what he's going to do. I'm excited about this defense because, you know, defense is, you know, it's going to make the offense a little better. Give them short fields, you know, the whole nine. It's just, I just want to see what Poles does. And Cornelius is talking, there's a bidding war developing for Daniil Hunter. If so, then he's out.
Where'd you get that, Cornelius? Where'd you get that from? Is that a source you're hearing about? Just let me see. Okay. If you know where that came from, Cornelius, just put it out there right quick while we're still here, man. Maybe we can talk about that really quick.
Yeah. But I just think I'm excited to see what he's going to do. This is probably it's the most important offseason in the history of the franchise, surpassing last year as the most important offseason in the history of the franchise. And I think he did pretty well last year, okay, with those 3 picks, Darnell Wright. Well, I shouldn't say 3 picks, the 3 acquisitions, the 3 starters of Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, and DJ Moore. And so if he can do that again, you know, it's really, really exciting to be a Bears fan. You know, despite the civil war that we have going on between Justin and Caleb fans, I think it's so exciting right now because this team is on the cusp of really taking off. And some people, and you could be negative Nancy's like, well, where do you see that? Trust me, the things that I can see are that other people who don't have the football experience that I do just might not be able to see, and it's understandable. I don't expect you to see what I see. I don't expect you to get it. All right, but there's things that I see with this team that I'm really looking forward to them, you know, having double-digit wins. So it's going to be fun to see, man. Fun to watch the acquisitions. And the one thing that I tell people, like I told them, people last year, enjoy it. All right, let's not act crazy. We should really stop acting crazy and calling people idiots and clowns and everything because they don't agree with your perspective and your thought, your opinion. It's pointless, okay? Because we really don't know what's going to happen. Only Ryan Poles and a few people in that building know. We're giving our opinions. We're giving our our thoughts are educated opinions. But then at the end of the day, they're still opinions because none of us are talking. Like I said, Ryan Poles ain't call me back yet, son of a gun. I'm still waiting on him. But when he does, I'll let you know what he tells me. So just enjoy it every day because it can be really fun and enjoyable if you sit there and you celebrate what Ryan Poles does. Because to this point, he's got very few losses and quite a few impactful victories.
So just to respond, I think Cornelius is responding to where the source was that. So he's saying both the Lions and Jaguars are interested in it. That's interesting because in this game and in this where we are it's as much of an arms race as it is anything else. And you don't want your top opponents to get more armed than you are. You want to have more nukes than them. And so we definitely can't afford to let Detroit get him if that's the case. And if there's some kind of development of that, and Detroit is in the conversation about getting Daniil Hunter, we need to definitely make a play for him, because we can't necessarily afford to allow Detroit to get away with walking away with him and us not making the right kind of bid for him. And so if that's the case, Cornelius, I expect Ryan Poles to actually get into that arms race and be a real serious player, because why wouldn't you? And so I if that's a real story and people are the Jaguars and the Lions are after him, you cannot let Detroit walk away with Daniil Hunter. I believe that. I think that would be a huge mistake by letting Lions walk away with Daniil Hunter. But
that's what happened with Claypool. There are reports that Green Bay wanted him.
Yeah,
and that's why we got in the race. And I think they wanted us. So Ryan Poles made sure that we got him as opposed to Green Bay.
You have to do that sometimes. I mean, it is really an arms race, man. But what's going on, Chris?
Detroit has we have 49 million in cap spaces as of right now. Detroit has 48 million. So I don't know if they have any cut candidates like we do, but of course that can change. But that's where we are as far as cap, right even.
Yeah. So that's going to go up once they release a couple of contracts.
Yep.
Get that stuff moved out of the way. The amount is going to go up. We're going to talk about some of this more tomorrow, probably get into it. We're going to be talking about it all off season, what kind of dynamics shake out, and the way it's going to look, and what kind of power player Ryan Poles is going to be out there on the market, because it's coming sooner than you think. So it'll be here sooner than later, and next thing you know, boom, we've acquired some guys, and probably some of the guys we're sitting here talking about now. So it's a fun conversation. I enjoyed having it with Sean. It was I love the chat. It's always really engaged, man, on this network. They are really, really engaged. I love what they bring to the show. That's why I like doing live shows, because we can do a whole bunch of pre-recorded content and put it out there. To me, it's room for that, and I probably would enjoy that, but I get no better joy than getting directly with the people and the real fan base of the Chicago Bears. It is no better feeling than get in here and do this with you guys. And I want you guys to know that, man. It's just fun to get in here and just kick it around and, just talk as fans. And that's what we are. And we become friends and allies in this whole thing. But I really enjoy doing the live content and getting you guys' feedback. So, Chris, before we get out of here, you got anything?
Well, I'm a little concerned, man. Mr. Mayhem 69 asks, he says, who cares about Detroit? And it made me think about our old buddy Don Burr, man. We have not heard from him since Detroit lost. Somebody needs to do a check on him, man.
Wellness check on him, man.
Maybe do a wellness check, man, and see if that dude is all right, because
I got his picture down at the post office, man. I got him.
Check him out, man. See what's going on.
So let me go ahead and let's get out of here with these famous words. And I see you guys tonight at Nomad at night, man, when we do the mock draft tonight. So do not miss it. That's at 7 p.m. Central. Be there or be square. But before I get out of here, I got to leave you with these famous words. Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.